So I'm going to make this quick video to give you an example of how to prepare for a writing prompt. On Thursday, you will be required to take one of 3 writing prompts that were given to you yesterday on Monday, and you will have to answer the question using examples and evidence. The whole point of this writing prompt is so you have the ability to craft a well-written paragraph. As I said yesterday, I don't want you to just memorize facts. I want to see you using language and examples and transition words appropriately in a clear writing piece. So that's the goal. Obviously, you need to be able to explain the historical situation that you choose to explain based on whatever question you answer, but the writing is wicked important. All right, so what I have done here is I have given us an example prompt. So how did dictators acquire and expand power in Europe in the 1930s? In order to prepare for this prompt, what I'm going to do is I am going to create an outline. This is just a bunch of bullet point notes that help answer the question. So what I'll do is I'll start a bulleted list. Let's go with arrows, that's fun. All right, and then right here I have the textbook open. So this is a question from section 1, which you've actually already taken a quiz on. So the road to war, introduction, all right, so the rise of dictators. We know based on the prompt that dictators and expanding power are the main things that I'm going to be looking for, the main topics. We know it's happening in Europe, and we know it's happening in the 1930s. So dictators and expanding power. So this first section is called The Rise of Dictators. So that tells me that this is the part of the book that I want to be looking at first for information. So let's do a little reading. So in the 1920s, Adolf Hitler stated in a book, Mein Kampf, "He who wants to live must fight, and he who does not want to fight in this world, where the internal struggle is the law of life, has no right to exist." When Hitler became Germany's leader, he put his strong words into action. Hitler was among other ruthless leaders to rise to power in the 20s and 30s by taking advantage of people's anger and suffering. Oh, that is one method he used to acquire or gain power. So we're going to write Hitler, and then underneath we are going to put took advantage of people's anger and suffering. And again, when there's pretty blue or red lines under your words, that means it is a grammatical or a spelling error. Okay. Now it says Hitler was among other ruthless leaders. So I'm going to put Hitler and others. Okay, because it wasn't just him who did that. All right. Now, in order to move these bullet points back and forth, I hit Tab to go into the right more, or I hit Shift Tab to go back towards the left. So Shift Tab, Tab. So let's go back there. All right. So some Europeans resented the Treaty of Versailles, which ended World War I. When a worldwide economic depression hit in the 1930s, frustration and fear added to the anger and suffering. Well, I feel like that information kind of falls under Hitler and others taking advantage of anger and suffering. So, Treaty of Versailles ended World War I. People were not happy with Germany. We've talked about that. And then economic depression in the 1930s. Ooh, there we are. The 1930s. Fear and frustration and anger. So then I'm just going to list the emotions that people were feeling, because perhaps I'll be able to use that later. Hitler and other leaders promised a better life, so took advantage of people's suffering. Hitler and others promised a better life and a glorious future. Once they won power, these men became dictators, leaders who control their nations by force. So promised a better life, gave people hope. And what I'm doing here is in an outline, it's just rough ideas of what I'm thinking, what maybe I want to talk about. Do I need to take all this information and use it in my prompt? Absolutely not. Is it good to have notes to pull from when it's time to write my paragraph or 2 or 3? Yeah, the more notes you have, the more material you'll be able to kind of pull in and work with. Cool. Okay. So now this outline is going over to Italy. We're going to bring us over to Benito Mussolini. So I'm going to title this one Italy. So Benito Mussolini won power by appealing to Italians who resented that Italy had won little in the Versailles Treaty. Mussolini made fascism, government characterized by militarism and racism, popular. By 1922, his fascist party was able to force Italy's king to name Mussolini the head of government. Mussolini soon banned all other political parties. Okay, that was a lot. How did he expand or gain power? So Italy, we have Benito Mussolini. And then he appealed to Italians who were not happy that Italy did not get much at the end of World War I. See how I took that first sentence? Benito Mussolini won power by appealing to Italians who resented that Italy had won little in the Versailles Treaty. Whew. I took that and I just put it in my own words. And that's really important when taking notes. If you take the information and immediately transcribe it or move it into your own words, rather, it'll save you from possibly plagiarizing information. So he appealed to Italians who were not happy that Italy did not get much at the end of World War II. Perfect. He made, so what he did, his party, fascist party, forced the king, oh goodness, Miss Levesque, forced the king to, lights went out, don't worry, just automatic. Okay, so his party forced the king to name Mussolini the head of government. After that, he banned all other political parties once in power. Sometimes I put periods at the end of my bullet points. You really don't need to. It's just a habit. All right, so he's another dictator, and he gained, acquired, and expanded power. Cool. All right. Known as Il Duce, Mussolini quickly ended democratic rule. So he ended democratic rule, which is when people get a say in the government. He banned civil liberties. This is like freedom of speech, press, voting, etc. So civil liberties are freedoms that we have to help us participate in society or in government. So free press. He built up the military as well. So expanded the military. I don't know if I want to use that bit, but I'm going to put it there just in case. If I don't know I want to use something, I'll just leave myself a little reminder that I wasn't sure about the information. Question marks work wonderfully. He took over an African nation, banned trade, power to enforce, Italy left the league. That doesn't really talk about how he gained or expanded his power. This last paragraph here talks about how he expanded Italy's physical, geographical, territorial control. Cool. I'm good with that. I feel like that's good. So, now we're going back to Germany. The Great Depression hit Germany especially hard, businesses failed, and millions of people lost their jobs. Hitler won German support by appealing to fears about the economy and bitterness over the Versailles Treaty. Alright, so Germany, we're going to have Adolf Hitler. What did he do? Appealed to people's fears about finances, the economy, so we're talking business, etc. Again with my apostrophe. Appealed to people's fears, businesses, lost jobs, etc. And their anger over the end of World War I. And if we remember, when World War I ended, Germany, which didn't start the war technically, got all the blame put on them. Now, I'm using this word appealed a lot. You can always highlight a word and you can explore the word. And sometimes you can find synonyms. I love using synonyms because sometimes when I'm writing, I find that I'm super repetitive and I use the same word over and over and over again. So, synonyms. Asked for, insisted on, requested. I don't like this thesaurus. Begged, put in for, asked, requested. I guess we could use one of those. So, asked for people's support based by showing that he understood their fears about finances and their anger over the war. Cool. Alright, scrolling down, got a nice little cartoon here. Hitler was the leader of the National Socialist Party, the Nazi Party. Hitler and the Nazis believed the Germans were superior to other people. Hitler blamed the Jews, including Germans who were Jewish, for Germany's problems. His anti-Semitism, hatred of Jews, would lead to unspeakable horrors. After gaining power in 1933, Hitler ended democracy. Okay, so remember, yes, it's talking about anti-Semitism, and yes, it's talking about extreme racism, but our prompt here is asking us, how did a dictator acquire and expand their power? We're not talking about his beliefs, we're not talking about his motivations. We're looking just for expanding and gaining power. So this second paragraph right here, it says after gaining power. When I see that word, okay, it makes me go, okay, there's going to be information here that I could use. So after gaining power, Hitler ended democracy and set up a totalitarian rule. In a totalitarian state, leaders crush all opposition and try to totally control all areas of society. So how did he expand or gain power? He ended democracy and set up a totalitarian government. Controlled all areas of society. Okay. Hitler claimed that Germany had the right to expand. Germany's neighbors watched uneasily as he defied the Versailles Treaty and rebuilt Germany's military. So he rebuilt the military and formed an alliance with Italy. I don't know if I want to use this information again, but I'm just going to leave it there just in case. All right. The League of Nations condemned, I'm right up here, the League of Nations condemned the Japanese invasion. Yeah, missed a paragraph. Growing tension. During the Depression, Japanese, so we have a new topic. Japan. During the Depression, the Japanese suffered from lack of jobs and food shortages. Military leaders believed that Japan needed more land and resources because they had lack of jobs and lack of food. September of 31, Japan's army invaded mineral-rich Manchuria, China's northeastern region. Now we're up top. The League of Nations condemned Japan's invasion but did nothing about it. Japan set up a government in Manchuria. Japan invaded China. 3 years later, Japan joined Germany and Italy in the Axis alliance. Okay, so what did Japan do to acquire and gain power? Invaded Manchuria and China for resources. Oh, my spelling, don't judge me. All right, American neutrality. There weren't any dictators there, so I'm going to skip that section. Germany on the march. This section talks about Germany starting physical, violent war, hot war as we call it, when advancements and killing and things like that happen. Cool. So now I have all this information right here, and I am able to use it now in my writing prompt. Now, we did not read this very last paragraph right here. I know our information on Japan is small. If you had other notes somewhere else, you can also pull that in. So quickly about the Soviet Union. Joseph Stalin rose to power as a communist leader of the Soviet Union. Communist leader of USSR rose to power. Actually, let's call it the Soviet Union. Rose to power. He used force to obtain or gain obedience. Used force to obtain, gain obedience from people. He executed his rivals and sent millions of people suspected of being disloyal to him to labor camps. Cool. Well, not cool. It's terrible, but here we are. So now I have, we can get rid of the book for a little bit. So now our prompt says, how did dictators acquire and expand power in Europe? Now note, I keep coming back to this writing prompt. I keep looking at it and reminding myself, well, what is this question asking me? It's asking me about dictators. It's asking me about power. It's asking me about how they expanded power in the 30s in Europe. Oh, in Europe. Well, okay, so Italy's in Europe. Germany's in Europe. Some of the Soviet Union is in Europe, but Japan is not. So we can get rid of Japan. It's okay to take more notes than needed and then go back and kind of clean it up. All right, so let's see how much I can get on one page here. All of it. Okay. So now I'm going to take this information and maybe on a piece of paper I'm going to rough draft a paragraph or two. For me, I like to go through my notes and go, okay, what are things that all of these people did? Well, they were all dictators and they all expanded power. I can use my writing prompt to come up with my topic sentence. And then once I have it, my claim, I'm going to go through all of my notes and figure out what information I can use to support my claim. You can make more than one claim. You can make a claim here that in the 1930s, dictators expanded power. Then you can make another claim that dictators used the military and force more than anything to get control. Because in these examples, there's the use of banning political parties, there's the use of putting your enemies in prison. There's lots of ways that force was used. So, things that stick out to me, we have force, dictators, control, limit rights of people. What else did we see? Look at that. Oh no. Limit right, control over others, force, dictators, limit, and democracy. No democracy was another big trend. Speaking to people like they understood the problems society was facing. That's really wordy. But see how I'm kind of taking all my notes and I'm just coming up with one word, short phrase, ideas, big ideas. And then I can take these and compose my rough draft, which I will not make you sit here and observe. But I wanted you to see an example of what outlining and preparing for a writing prompt can look like for social studies. If you have another way that you like to use, rock on, go for it. If you want to try this way, awesome. If you need anything, just email me. Cool. All right. Good luck, friends.